Okay, we're going to be talking about Music Flash class and some games you can play with it. And this was a request by Victor, who had some questions about it. Typically, when you start up Music Flash class the first time, before you've done anything, you have an image that looks like this. And on the window, oops, sorry about that. I was controlling the computer instead of the iPad. And if you start to play it, you just get the opportunity to play with some notes here and name them. And if you hit something wrong, you get a message saying it's wrong and things like that. And then you click next and continue on. In this particular case, I'm going to hit the gear icon on the top right, and I'm in setup. And you can see I was set to work with notes selectors of letter names. This is what most people do. Some places in Europe use an H for a B. Sometimes I teach in solfege, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti in the American way, or if you're teaching in the international way, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, si. The tricky thing here is that this is fixed do, I believe, and some places in Europe use ut for do. This is thrown in for fun. I have never seen a situation where we need to use this, but perhaps someone does. Scale degrees is when you're working with major keys or minor keys, you can actually choose the scale degree that you see. Teacher mode is useful if you're working with younger kids who are at the piano or things like that, and they can play the piano or say out the note names, and you can mark whether it's correct or incorrect. Or the piano can, here's a simple 1 octave. It does not scroll from left to right, where they can choose their things. Let's stick with letter names for now for a moment. You, of course, can choose your notes. That was the second option I did here. Choose all sorts of notes you want. There are all sorts of options here. Usually what I find, though, is by clicking Edit Decks in the top right, I can create custom notes for people that I want to. So I'm going to hit the plus in the lower right. And here I'm going to start to create a custom note deck. So sometimes I am working with students on ledger lines, and I want to make sure they know everything from maybe the upper octave of C. I can hit the plus on a note and add them up. And I can get that upper C octave and I can play with them. I can rename it. And let's correct a typo and do that. And then when I click list of decks and I say, yes, I do want to save this, there I have a new option at the bottom called upper C octave. I can click on that. And now when I'm in decks, if I choose it, I can see that that's what I want to test. All right. Selecting it back to the edit decks, selecting a deck like I had before gives us the opportunities to hide it. Let's say I don't like this deck showing up in my things because these were test decks for other people perhaps. Or here I can duplicate this text and I can edit it then by getting the gear icon next to it. And I can maybe make this a C circle of thirds, upper C octave circle of thirds. And now I have a new deck here that I developed from the older one. I can edit the list here by clicking the top right where it was, and I can take away decks, hit the minus, hit the delete, hit the minus, hit the delete. And what I have done in the past is hidden a lot of decks I want, or if I have a deck that I'm really working with a lot, I can drag it on the far right, grab the, and I can move it perhaps to an easier place where I can find it, click done. And you can see I have the upper circle of thirds at the top. All right. The specific question was about games. I like to operate with learn mode on. Learn mode is it listens to the errors that the student makes and drills them on notes in a semi-random way that they struggle with. Let's go to goals and games and talk about that. What's the goal? None specified. You just play. It tells you how many decks of cards you are correct. How many are wrong, how many are right. I can say I'd like to make sure that the student can do 3 times through a deck completely. And depending upon whether you have learn mode on or off can affect how many cards it ends up working with this. Here's another one that I sometimes use, repeat wrong cards. If I want to have the student go through the thing, they can keep doing the decks, and if something is wrong, it's going to come through again and show it up again. So here's an example of doing that. Each successive deck of cards will contain the wrong cards from before. So here I have 4 notes I'm going to do. See, oh, that one I'm going to say is maybe I get it wrong. I hit an F. Wow, okay, bummer. It's going to drill me on that one. E, oh, there's that B again that I got wrong. B, yep. There's a G, and there's a C. Now here's the funny thing, that if you are extended beyond this, let's say I'm going to get this wrong again, F, oops, and I'm going to hit E, E, it's going to drill me on the ones I'm wrong, plus keep throwing in the old cards. Eventually, if I get everything right, you see now I'm on the second deck. I got 2 wrong. My second deck only has 2 cards in it right now. It's going to be a B and an E if I get the B correct. And here's my E. If I get this correct right now, I'm done with the game. Oops, I thought. It had still not finished completing whether or not something had been drilled enough. And that was why I did that. I can save this E and the B for later by clicking the save button. But let's go back to a different game, different task. Repeat wrong cards, repeat wrong decks. That means that you have to actually get through the deck completely 3 times. So I'm going to choose this one for now. Let's turn off learn mode. Learn mode so it's not going to repeat wrong notes. Here I am. I have to do this deck completely 3 times correctly before it's done. All right, so here's my first time through, 4 notes probably before my deck is correct. Good, you can see I'm now on the second deck. And I have 0 4 cards done. All right, let's do that. I'm gonna make a mistake here. Oops. All right, it's not gonna repeat that note. So now I'm on the 3rd deck, but I've only gotten 1 deck correct total. Let's get this one. There, I've gotten 2 decks correct. So now I'm going through the deck the 4th time through. If I get this correct, the game should be complete. There, it took me 4 decks to finish getting 3 whole decks right. So these are the activities, goals, and games that you can set. We can talk about gamifying them in a moment. This is a fun one to play. It continues into the wrong first note. This is one of those games where you can actually challenge to see how far they can go before they get a note wrong. So hopefully no one would ever get this note wrong. You know, your students would get this right, and it keeps going. Yay, look how good I am at this. Usually what happens is students try to go really fast, and eventually they hit a wrong note, and you say, oops. They say, all right, you got 11 correct in a row. Of course, this becomes more difficult with a larger deck. All right, let's see what else we go. Hit the gear icon again. And then we have the hot potato game. This is my students' favorite ones. This one on the far right is kind of a tricky one that people don't understand. This shows you on the right how rough you can treat the device before it actually buzzes prematurely. And this was added to prevent my students from actually throwing my phone to the next students in a very early iteration of this game. The first student to ever throw my phone to another student was actually my son. So if I leave this off, if you throw the phone around or the iPad around, it's not going to complain. If I put it on this one, you have to really be pretty tough with it for it to do it. But if I put it down here, if you just jostle it even the slightest bit, they have to work very carefully not to do this. It will prematurely buzz. All right, so it doesn't matter. I'm having it on a desk. It's not going to be a problem. I'm going to leave it on off for now. And we're going to play the hot potato game. The hot potato game chooses a random interval between 30 seconds and 2 minutes for you to keep passing it between people back and forth. The idea is that you get a circle of students in a row in a group class, and they start playing the game. All right, and it has this little beeper going on, giving them a sort of a timer that's slowly rising in pitch and in frequency of occurrence. So one student hits the C, they get it right, they pass it to the next person. They think, oh, that's an E. They get it right, they pass it to the next person. The next person says, that's an A. Oh no, I got it wrong. What is it instead? Next person says, oh wait, okay, that's a G. They get it right. Now they can pass it to the next person. Next person says it's an E. Next person says it's a G. Next person says it's a C. Next person gets it wrong. Oh no, so he has to do it again, or she. So he tries again, and what frequently happens is as the frequency gets higher and higher, they start guessing more, and they keep making more and more wrong notes, and it stays on their desk until, or on the floor, until they actually get it right. And they pass it along, and they keep going back and forth. And it says, oh no, I'm panicking, they say, and they finally move along. What's interesting is if someone is used to always playing in learn mode, they start to expect that the next note after a wrong note is the same note. Turn off learn mode for this one, so they have to keep going. And they'll keep going. And at some point, it's going to buzz and say to the person whose lap it is in that you are the one that has the hot potato. And the goal is to try and avoid having it. It's kind of like catchphrase or another one of those games where you're passing a device back and forth. And imagine the students are getting pretty excited here. They're going, ah! This is a pretty long one. It's fun. Yeah, I'm trying not to hit any wrong notes. And if it buzzes in someone's hand before it's actually in front of another person, then they are the one that has the hot potato. All right. Now, one of the things that you can do is you can just do this for fun. You can have little tchotchke prizes in there. What I tend to do, this group got 52 right answers. I tend to have play money, play Monopoly. I just use like Monopoly money or something like that. And I give the group $52 for all the correct answers. And then I take away 7 of those for all the wrong answers. And then at the end of the session, we count up how many dollars we've accumulated through the group class, and that can be exchanged for a little toy or more, depending on how many dollars we have for each one of the little students. So really tiny, cheap things that you can get from Oriental Trading Company or other places like that, dollar stores and things like that. So my motivation is that everyone is motivated to get it right in the first time and not to get it wrong. Because otherwise you have students who just keep getting random notes until the note that shows up underneath it is correct. You don't want that. You want a group motivation that says, don't hit the wrong answer, actually think before you play. So we get $52 minus $7, and everyone gets $45 in this particular group class. So that's the hot potato game. Related to other things, I like to point out that the Chromatics is a fairly powerful feature of this that people can play. I'm going to take away all the key signatures for a moment. I click key signatures, no key signatures, but I am going to add accidentals in here. I'm going to say clear all accidentals, and I'm going to do sharps. I'm just dragging my finger across it, flats, and sorry, let's take out the naturals and just the note by itself. All right, this means that every note can be a sharp, a flat, or a note. All right, so let's play this. This is a pretty straightforward one. No one should really have any problems with this once they understand what's going. So I'm going to go back to goals and games, and I'm just going to put this back on to normal. You can play any of these games with hot potato or something like that. And we're going to stick with letter names, click done. And oops, I'm in keys. I don't want to be doing keys. Sorry about that. We are not naming keys. That came from and the keys and chromatics, how to name all keys. We are naming notes for now. Bam. And done. And I'm gonna play this. Now, when we're doing this, usually when we talk out loud, we say C sharp. And we write the notes, we see the sharp before the note name. To minimize the number of buttons that you have to click in here, I take the same approach of putting the accidental before the name. So if I say, try to type C sharp, it's going to say, oh, as soon as I touch a letter, it's going to assume I know what I'm doing. So I'm going to type sharp, C, and then that's correct. If I tried to type G sharp, I would hit the G first. I would say, oh, nope, that's not correct. It's a G sharp instead. All right. Now, so flat C, G. I'd like to notice that there are 12 cards in this deck. And the reason there are 12 cards in this deck is there's a total of 4 notes. And there are 3 for each note, different accidental opportunities, a flat, a sharp, or no accidental at all. Right, so you can see that now someone has to do, they have to recognize the sharp and the flat associated with each one. This is less interesting in letter names, but more interesting if I play it on a piano keyboard. All right. Now, when they play this game, I see a C flat, a B. I see a B sharp. I need something that looks like a C, an E, C sharp, the G. And if I hit the wrong one, it's not uncommon for a student to go flat instead of sharp or sharp instead of flat. You can see what I touched. I touched the F sharp instead of the G sharp. It X's the F sharp and shows me that I really want a G sharp instead. And I can continue along with the game. An often requested feature that will probably show up in some future version of this is a scaling keyboard so that people can start to track where they are on the piano. So this B flat, for instance, would be very different than another G flat somewhere else. So you can play this with hot potato. You can play this with games where you're challenging your students to see how far they can go along the deck before they hit a wrong note. With accidentals, it becomes a lot better because now they're translating what they see on the page to the 1-octave keyboard. That's as far as most teachers tend to go, I see. But I find, I'm going to take out the accidentals for a second, clear all accidentals. I find that key signatures start to do things. So let's set all our key signatures, okay? I could have done 3 sharps and 3 flats or something like that. Now, when I play the game here, you know what, let's also change our note names. Let's use all notes just for the fun of it. Okay. Now, when I play this game, you're going to get a key signature. It's assuming, actually it doesn't matter if it's major or minor. So I'm going to see 1 flat. I know that's F major or D minor, but I know that the F is natural. I see 5 flats here, but I know it's still a C natural. I see 6 flats here. I see a B. I should know that that's a B flat. And I see 7 flats here. I should know that's an E. All right, so you get the gist. And if I hit a wrong note here, let's say I hit a B flat instead, it shows me what I want to do instead. This is really cool again for hot potatoes. Let me show you an even cooler feature. Oops, I went to notes, but I really want to do is a note selector. This is starting to get more advanced. I'm going to work in major keys, and I want my students to recognize what scale degree I am showing of a key. All right, so let's play this game now. I am in D flat major. A B flat should be the 6th scale degree. I am in G major. A G should be the 1st scale degree, the tonic. I am in F sharp major. The A sharp should be the 3rd scale degree. All right. I am in C sharp major. The G sharp should be the 5th scale degree. And of course, if I get it wrong, I'm in A major. This should be the 3rd scale degree. Perhaps though they read this as an A and they hit tonic. And you can see what happens here. All right. Let's get a little bit more advanced. What happens if you start modifying the accidentals on scale degrees? I'm swiping across each of these rows. I'm saying I can have the note, diatonic note. I can add a natural. I can add a sharp. I can add a flat. Now, all of a sudden, the student needs to know 2 things. Not only what scale degree, what note this is within the scale. Is it a G sharp, a G, or a G flat? They need to know the number. And if I see for instance, A major with a G sharp, is that G sharp raising the seventh, or is that G sharp actually part of A major? I'll show you how this works. All right, here I am in C sharp major. I see an F natural. All right, I should know that F sharp is the fourth scale degree and F natural is flatting the fourth scale degree. All right, so this is the trick. These flats and sharps are not absolute to the notes. They are relative to the scale degree. So I'm going to flat the fourth degree. I am in F sharp major. I see a G natural. All right, so I am flatting the second scale degree because G sharp is the normal scale degree. All right, I am in C major. This is an obvious one for people. I am flatting the third scale degree. I am in D flat major. Oh, this is easy. This is the fifth scale degree. There's no accidental associated with it. I am in E major, the F sharp. I am in E flat major. This is a funny one. Why would I ever sharp the first scale degree if we're going momentarily to the key of F minor? I am in B major. Ha, did you see that? I got cocky here. That is a D sharp. That is not an F sharp. And that should be the third scale degree, obviously. Now, here's an interesting one. I'm in C flat major. A student might be tempted to say, oh, this is flat 5. But G flat is already in the key signature. So they just need to recognize that this is a 5, not a flatted 5. And you get the gist of how this works. Okay. It gets a little more confusing. Well, let's actually, before we do this, I'm working in, let's go back to note selector scale degrees. I can do the same thing with minor. Now, here's the tricky thing with minor. I'm assuming everything is relative to natural minor. Okay. Excuse me. Let me double check this. It's been so long since I've done this. All right, here I am in A flat minor. This is my fifth scale degree. Here I am in A sharp minor, okay? So I see an E, which is my flat 5. Here I am in A flat major. This is my sixth, F minor. This is my tonic. Notice the natural in it, it's redundant. Here I am in C sharp minor. This is my fifth scale degree. Here I am in G sharp minor. This is my seventh scale degree. Now, the question is, would this be a flat 7 or would this be a normal 7? It's a normal 7 because we're doing it relative to the natural minor. Okay. C minor, the sixth scale degree. And did you see how it went from, I had to raise the 6 to get the natural. A minor, G flat minor, E flat minor. I have to think a little bit. It's been a while since I've done this. 7th scale degree, not a flat 7, just a 7. All right. And let's do one more. We have here G minor with an A sharp. Let's go to our note selector scale degrees. You really want your students to think. You're going to have them pay attention to whether it's minor or major. I see it's minor, 4 flats. That makes it F minor, sharp 1. I see it's major, B flat major. I see a B flat, that's the tonic. I see F sharp major. I see a 4th scale degree that has been raised. All right, I'm gonna get this, no, I'm gonna get it wrong when we get an accident later. I see F sharp major, minor, I mean. I see C sharp minor. I see A minor. I see D minor. Now, I'm just going to hit the 7 here because we would usually think from a harmonic minor scale that the 7th is raised. And I'm going to show you what it thinks is right. It says, no, we actually need to sharp the 7. So I kind of take a figured bass approach. That in figured bass, if you are doing an accidental to the 7th over a chord that were, for instance, the tonic, you would actually do a sharp 7. Does that make sense? I hope so. All right, let's move on. Let's talk about, we've talked about keys, we've talked about scale degrees. Been naming notes, but we don't have to name notes. We can name major keys. This only works, this is only reasonable if you have key signatures set. All right, if you only have no key signature set, you're naming keys, it doesn't really make sense to do that. Same with scale degrees. If you're naming scale degrees and you're not naming keys, you don't have keys, everything's going to be in C major, and you will only have 1 be C, 2 be D, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, naming keys, this will be the last thing I do here. Now I'm naming keys that I see. Oops, doesn't make sense. Let me show you this. This is funny. If I leave it in scale degrees, everything's always going to be 1. Because the key name is always the tonic. So let's go back to note names. All right. And I'm going to name the keys. All right. We have D major. We have F major. We have B flat major. Hit the flat first. We have D flat major. Hit the flat first. We have B major. And let's get it wrong. It shows me that I really want to, I hit the E, but I want the E and the flat together. I hope this answers your questions, and thank you very much. Good luck.